A violent outbreak grips the city as humans who have already succumbed to the infection turn into zombies and attack everyone in sight. In the middle of this nightmare, a teenage girl named Kate desperately tries to protect her mother, but her mother is beyond saving. Tears streak her face as she runs, abandoning her mother to the horrors behind her. Time moves forward and nearly 10 years pass. Kate is no longer a terrified girl, but a grown woman and a skilled and dedicated doctor. She works tirelessly to help others who suffer from the same infection that once took her mother. One day, a frightened couple rushes into the hospital, carrying their young son who has been infected. Kate promises that the boy will receive proper treatment and careful monitoring. The infection does not immediately turn people into zombies. Scientists have created a special serum called the return protein, which halts the spread of the virus inside the body, but only temporarily. It must be administered every single day without fail. If even one dose is missed, the virus reactivates, and within 24 hours, the infected will fully turn into a zombie. The scene then shifts to Alex, Kate's husband, a gentle music teacher. During class, one of his students cruelly mocks the returned people. The comment cuts deep because Alex himself is one of the returned. Only Kate and some medical professionals responsible for his care know the truth about him. To protect Alex, Kate secretly stockpiles protein vials even though regulations strictly limit access. She knows the treatment comes from spinal fluid harvested from dead zombies, a rare resource growing scarcer by the day. That evening, Alex and Kate host a dinner in their home for their close friends Jacob and his wife Amber. In a moment of trust, Alex decides to reveal his secret and tells Jacob and Amber that he is one of the returned. He recounts how years earlier he had gone to a music shop to buy a guitar. When he saw the shop clerk suddenly collapse and convulse violently, he rushed to help but was scratched during the chaos. That small wound was enough to infect him. He was rushed to a military hospital where he became part of the earliest experimental trials of the protein. Against all odds, the treatment worked on him and he was eventually transferred to a civilian hospital where he met Kate. The dinner table falls into heavy silence, but Jacob and Amber remain supportive. They don't see Alex as a monster, but as their friend. The next day, Kate attends an important meeting where she presents her ambitious proposal, developing a synthetic version of the protein, one that would provide a permanent cure and end the daily dependency. Her presentation is interrupted by a man who argues that the returned are dangerous, unstable, and should be isolated far away from the uninfected population. But Kate argues that they are still human and deserve compassion, care, and the right to live normal lives. Slowly, her words sway the audience, and heads nod in agreement. But victory is short-lived. The very next day, as Kate tends to her duties at the hospital, a violent extremist group storms the facility. These radicals see no difference between the returned and zombies, and without hesitation, they execute patients in their beds. Men, women, and children receiving treatment are slaughtered without mercy. Kate watches in horror as lives are extinguished before her eyes. She realizes just how dangerous fear and hatred have become, that to many, the returned are not people, but monsters. The next morning, Kate is still shaken to her core by the brutal hospital attack. She goes to see Dr. Dave, the hospital director, and asks for a 1-month leave. Understanding the trauma she has endured, Dr. Dave grants her request without hesitation. With her duty to the hospital set aside, Kate's focus shifts to Alex's safety. She goes to Eve, a black market supplier who has been her secret lifeline for protein vials. But Eve shakes her head. The supply has nearly vanished since the recent wave of attacks, and she has barely anything left. Before Kate leaves, Eve warns her that the extremist group responsible for the hospital massacre now has their hands on stolen patient lists. With those records, they're targeting the returned one by one. Panic grips Kate. If Alex's name is on that list, he's already in danger. She quickly rushes home and finds Alex fighting off an armed intruder. After a violent struggle, Kate and Alex manage to kill the intruder. Together, they drag his body to a remote site, knowing even the slightest trace could draw more hunters to their door. They realize that their home is no longer safe. With heavy hearts, they pack their belongings and carefully load their limited supply of protein into a cooler. Just as they're about to leave, the doorbell rings. Jacob and Amber are standing there, inviting Kate and Alex to take shelter at their home, but Kate refuses. She won't put her friends at risk. Instead, she and Alex check into a small, anonymous hotel. A few days later, while quietly eating in a restaurant, they spot Jacob and Amber again. Jacob explains that coordinated attacks are erupting across the city, and more hospitals have been hit. The returned are being hunted everywhere. He pleads with them, "You can't keep running forever. You'll be safer at our house." Kate and Alex exchange a heavy look and reluctantly agree. For several days, they find some measure of comfort in Jacob and Amber's hospitality, until one evening Kate opens up. Tomorrow, she will meet Eve to collect 60 doses of protein, and with that supply, she and Alex plan to leave the city for good. She thanks her friends and says that she won't drag them into further danger. But the next morning, when Kate arrives at Eve's place, she finds her lifeless body sprawled across the floor. She is murdered in yet another rebel attack. However, as Kate kneels to examine the scene, her eyes catch a broken fingernail. Her blood runs cold. It belongs to Amber. Kate immediately calls Alex and asks him to check the cooler box. Moments later, Alex confirms their worst fear. The entire protein stock is gone. The betrayal crushes them. Jacob and Amber, the friends they trusted, have stolen everything. Alex, whose very life depends on the injections, is left staring down certain death. Meanwhile, in their secret hideout, Jacob and Amber open the cooler. It turns out that Amber is one of the returned herself. She has orchestrated the betrayal to secure her own survival. Back at the house, Kate refuses to give up and rushes to the hospital in hopes of finding leftover supplies amidst the chaos. While she searches, Jacob calls Alex. His voice cracks with guilt as he tries to justify what they did. Alex, furious but desperate, pleads with him to at least give him a few vials, enough to stay alive a little longer. But Jacob's fear outweighs his remorse and ends the call. Alex sits in silence. Time is slipping away, and with no protein left, he has only hours before the virus takes hold. He then starts thinking not about himself, but about Kate, about what she'll face when he turns. He remembers the chained zombie he once saw. Maybe the only choice left is deciding how to face the end before the monster inside him awakens. Back at the hospital, Kate pleads with Dr. Dave for his help. For a moment he hesitates, torn between duty and rules, but eventually he leads Kate through dim corridors until they reach a hidden storeroom, one hardly anyone knows exists. Inside, shelves hold a small reserve of protein vials. It isn't a permanent solution, but it's enough to buy Alex more time until the synthetic cure is officially released. Kate thanks Dave with trembling hands and quickly calls Alex to tell him the good news. For the first time in days, they feel a flicker of hope, but they don't realize that their conversation has been overheard by one of the returned who desperately attacks Kate for the protein vials. When Kate returns to the apartment, her heart is heavy with exhaustion and dread. She finds Alex weaker than ever, his skin pale, his body trembling. She sits beside him and explains everything. They embrace tightly, clinging to each other as though trying to stop the world from ripping them apart. But Alex knows that the virus is winning. His breathing grows ragged, his strength fading. Looking into Kate's tearful eyes, he tells Kate that he doesn't want to transform, doesn't want to lose himself and become the very monster they've both fought against for years. He then begs to let him go before the virus fully takes him. Tears stream down Kate's face as she listens, but deep inside she knows he's right. With a trembling hand and an agonized soul, she grants him his final wish. The silence that follows is suffocating, filled only with grief too deep to describe. Hours later, Kate leaves the apartment, hollow and broken. On the street outside, Dr. Dave approaches, calling out her name with urgency. He looks relieved to find her, saying he's been trying to reach her all day. She stares at him in numb confusion as he delivers the news that destroys her completely. Just hours ago, the government officially announced the approval of the synthetic protein. The permanent cure doesn't just delay the virus, it eliminates it entirely. Just when salvation became reality, it arrived too late. Kate collapses into tears, broken by the unbearable irony of Alex dying on the very day a cure was announced. Months later, Kate moves to a new house she once dreamed of sharing with Alex. Though he's gone, a piece of him remains. She is carrying his child. Her days are quieter now, shadowed by loss but filled with a fragile purpose. The final scene reveals that Kate is no longer just mourning. She hasn't forgotten Jacob and Amber's betrayal, and now she's preparing for a calculated revenge.